What you're about to hear are 3 true accounts of cold activity that law enforcement couldn't explain. Each story involves families. Each involves children. Each involves sacrifices that should never have happened. These aren't urban legends or internet stories. These are documented cases where normal families became instruments of something ancient and evil. By the end of these stories, you'll understand that cults don't always wear robes or live in compounds. Sometimes they're your neighbors, your family, the people you trust most. Valentina and I always hung out with our friends in the backyard after school. Normal adolescent stuff. Homework, games, talking about nothing important. But one day, my friend Marcus showed up carrying something wrapped in an old towel. When he unwrapped it, I saw a small gray cat, still alive, but barely moving. Hey, Hasiel, remember that frog we discussed in science class? What do you think about trying it on something bigger? I said no immediately. This wasn't science class. This was someone's pet. But Marcus stepped closer with the other friends. You better do it, or else your parents will get it. We know where you live, Hasiel. They held the cat down while forcing the knife into my hands. I had no choice. They were threatening my family. My hands shook as I made the first cut. The cat was alive, still moving. I couldn't stop once I started. They were watching, demanding I continue. The sound it made. After I finished, my friends dipped their fingers in the blood and painted marks on my face. Their touch felt ice cold. Congratulations! Now you are part of our team. The animal collection welcomes you. What I didn't know was that I had just made a sacrifice towards something evil. Something that I had been watching and waiting. That night, around 3 a.m., the nightmares began. But they felt more real than any dream I've ever had. I saw myself walking toward a house I'd never seen before. Inside, teenagers were kneeling, praying in a language I didn't recognize. Then, a dark figure in a hooded coat appeared. It approached me and pressed something burning hot against my back. I woke up sweating and ran to the bathroom mirror. When I turned around and looked at my back in the reflection, there it was. The symbol for my dream, burned into my skin like a brand. Perfectly formed, impossible, but real. The next day at school, I wanted to confront my friends about what was happening, but they weren't there. All absent, without explanation. When I got home, I asked my parents, Josh and Illy, if I could visit my friends. They said no, not tonight. Something in their voices felt different. I waited until dark, then decided to sneak out. First, I wanted to see if my sister Valentina wanted to come with me. I knocked on her bedroom door. No answer. When I quietly opened it, the room was empty. Her window was wide open. Curtains blowing in the night air. I climbed out through the window and ran toward my friend's house. I had to find out what was happening to my sister. When I reached my friend's house, there was a bright red glowing light from inside. I snuck through the back door. The smell hit me immediately. In the living room, I found multiple dead cats, cut open exactly like the one I'd been forced to kill. Their organs floated in bowls of dark soup. When I turned around, Valentina was standing right behind me. I asked what she was doing there, but she just smiled and walked away slowly. When I tried to grab her arm, she hissed at me like a cat. The sound didn't come from her throat. It came from somewhere deeper. I followed her to the backyard, where dozens of teenagers stood facing a dark figure in a hooded coat. They were all perfectly still, like they were praising him. The figure looked familiar, exactly like the one from my dream. But then, I realized it hadn't been a dream at all. When the figure removed his hood, I saw my father's face. Josh, my own dad, had been leading this cult behind our family's back. Welcome, son. Join us in the animal collection. Your sacrifice has been accepted. I always thought the neighborhood was safe, peaceful, predictable. My wife, Illy, and I had lived there for years without incident. When Martin and Jasmine moved in next door, they seemed perfect. A young couple, quiet, friendly, and even baked them a welcome pie. But when we stepped inside their home to deliver it, something felt wrong immediately. There was nothing there. No furniture, no belongings. Just rows of candles, arranged in specific patterns across the bare floors. Hundreds of them, different sizes, all unlit. Just in case, Jasmine said when I asked about their power. Her eyes lingered on us a little too long. That night, at 2 a.m., I woke up thirsty. Heading downstairs for water, I noticed bright light pouring through their windows. I whispered to myself about them testing their candles, but curiosity got me. I slipped out the back door and crept to the fence. What I saw froze me completely. A baby lying in the center of a circle of lit candles. Martin and Jasmine are standing above it, heads bowed. They were whispering words in a language I couldn't understand, but the rhythm was hypnotic and terrifying. I snapped a photo with my phone and ran back inside, shaking. I showed Illy immediately. We agreed to confront them in the morning. By sunrise, something was terribly wrong. My phone photo had completely vanished, like it had never existed. When we went over to confront them, Martin and Jasmine acted completely confused. No candles visible, no baby anywhere. We haven't used any candles yet, she insisted with a perfectly polite smile. Maybe you had a vivid dream? I pulled out my phone, ready to prove them wrong, but the image wasn't there. Illy swore she hadn't touched it. My stomach dropped. As we left, Jasmine pressed a pastry box into my hands. A little thank you for the warm welcome. That night, Illy wouldn't touch the pastries, but I was starving. I tested one on our cat first. No reaction, so I ate one myself. That's when the nightmares began. I heard chanting in my sleep, babies crying in the distance. I opened my eyes, or thought I did, and I was in their living room. The candle circle, the baby. But this time, I was the one in the middle. I jerked awake, drenched in sweat, back in my own bed. Illy said she didn't hear anything, but I knew what I had experienced. The next day, they invited us to the hospital to see Martin's cousin's newborn. It seemed innocent, a normal family visit. But I noticed the way Jasmine looked at the baby. Her eyes weren't joyful or loving. They were hungry, calculating. That night, I woke to find Illy gone from our bed. I ran to the window and saw their house alive with flickering light. I ran next door. Their front door was unlocked. Inside, I saw a pentagram drawn in fresh blood on the living room floor. A deep horn sound moaned from the basement. When I opened the door and looked inside, my blood ran cold. Boxes filled with newborns, dozens of them, all dead. Each was carved with the same symbol I'd seen in the blood pentagram upstairs. That's when I looked up. Illy was standing at the top of the stairs, staring down at me with empty eyes. Her lips were moving, whispering words I couldn't understand. She shut the door, locking me inside with the horror. I fumbled for my phone's flashlight. Behind the boxes, a figure stirred, pale, stitched together like it had been sewn. When it turned toward me, I saw my own face staring back. You shouldn't have eaten the pastry. Mom left me and my little sister at Grandma and Grandpa's farmhouse for the summer. The old place smelled of mothballs and something else. Something rotten. Crosses lined every wall, but they weren't normal. Each was carved with strange symbols, little claw marks, etched deep into wood. That first night, Grandpa served us thick, dark stew. Chunks of meat floated in it that didn't look like anything I recognized. Family recipe. Been passed down through generations. Eat up, children. My sister spit hers out when no one was looking, but I swallowed mine. It tasted metallic, like old pennies. While helping Grandma wash dishes, I noticed her wrist. Deep scars in perfect circles, like someone had burned brands into her skin. She caught me staring and whispered, "Don't worry, child. You'll have your mark soon, too." I woke at 3:18 a.m. to muffled crying. I followed the sound through the dark house. It led to the cellar door. When I opened it, the smell punched me in the face. Rot, rust, wet earth, all mixed in a wall stench. I crept down the steps. In the dim light of a single bowl, I saw rows of glass jars lining wooden shelves. Each jar was filled with cloudy liquid. Inside, tiny hands, tiny feet, whole infants curled up like preserved specimens. Behind me, the door creaked. Grandpa's voice growled from the shadows. "You should have come down here, boy." He gripped my shoulder with ice-cold hands and shoved me back upstairs, his strength far greater than his age should allow. The next day, Grandma forced us to kneel on the living room floor. All the furniture had been pushed back, candles forming a perfect circle around us. around us, photographs of all our cousins, kids who used to come here every summer, were nailed to the walls like hunting trophies. Grandma slit her palm with a kitchen knife, dripping fresh blood into a wooden bowl already filled with small white teeth, children's teeth. "Repeat after me," she whispered, beginning to chant in that same unknown language. We refused. That's when she smiled and turned toward my sister with predatory interest. "She's young enough, pure enough. The collection will be very pleased with her." I grabbed my sister's hand and ran for the door, but Grandpa was already there, shotgun in hand, blocking our escape. That night, they dragged us into the old barn. The walls were painted with red symbols, dried and cracked with age. From the rafters hung ropes tied into nooses, but small ones, sized perfectly for children like us. Grandma forced my sister into the wooden table, the same one we'd eaten from. She trapped her wrists with old leather belts. My sister screamed and kicked, but Grandpa pinned her legs with inhuman strength. Grandma raised the knife high, chanting, "The collection grows, the bloodline stays." I threw myself at her, bit her arm hard enough to taste blood, but Grandpa hit me with his shotgun. Everything went white, then black. When I woke up inside the cellar, there was a new jar on my chest. Inside, my sister's face, pressed against the glass, mouth open, and the same scream. "You're part of the collection now, boy, just like all the others." 3 families, 3 generations, 3 different cults with the same goal: collecting children for something ancient and evil. These cults still operate today. The animal collection continues under new leadership. The newborn collectors have expanded their network. The Grandparent Harvest grows each summer. If your teenager starts acting strange after hanging out with new friends, if your neighbors seem too interested in your family, if relatives insist on extended visits with your children, trust your instincts, question everything, because the most dangerous cults are the ones that look like normal families.